Today, let's deconstruct modern female thinking. The kind of thinking that most feminists have. What is feminism anyway? In theory, feminism is a collection of movements and ideologies aimed at defining, establishing, and defending equal political, economic, and social rights for women. This includes seeking to establish equal opportunities for women in education and employment. A feminist is an advocate or supporter of the rights and equality of women. Unfortunately, feminism has a bad reputation among some people, both women and men. Although feminism is really just about advocating for equality, some people think it's more than that. Specifically, some people think that feminism involves a belief that women's rights are more important than men's rights. It consists of a belief that women are absolutely equal to men in all ways. It doesn't. The vast majority of feminists believe, for example, that the average man is stronger than the average woman, and that this is a genetic fact. A belief that men are bad, evil, or out to harm women. Yes, there are radical feminists who may believe some of these things, but this is not a reason to hate feminism though. Men's standards and expectations remain roughly the same, but post-social media self-obsession and The Secret made many first world women develop uncontrollable desire. Both great sources of much ungodly misery from insecurity and regret, as understood by those who search for selflessness instead. We will all be better off once we start to acknowledge the fact that we're all in the same boat. We may have different problems, and these problems are caused by different things, but we're on the same team. We should act like it. These girls desperately need to know how their actions are affecting their perceived value from our perspective. But it seems to me that we can do it without all the derogatory comments, and if somebody makes a mistake in their life, they're already suffering for it. We don't need to stomp on them as well. That's how I want anybody to treat me. One of the main reasons feminism has really made it worse for men wanting to be in committed relationships with women is marriage. Marriage is a contract where you have to pay all you've got while they pay all they want. And when they decide to stop contributing, you still have to pay. They can leave you and move in with somebody else, or move another man into your house, and you still have to pay them. You will have to pay her as much as a judge says, for as long as that judge says, even if she seduced your best friend and divorced you when you found out. The reason she quits isn't relevant, but the contract goes on for the male. For 99% of history, marriage was about connecting two families and making babies. Love, while desired, was not consequential. The couple likely had minimal input into the marriage as well. Then we entered the era of love marriages, and while I'm happy with that advancement, some people invented a rule that said, "My kind of marriage and no others." As long as the two people are of sound mind, enter voluntarily into the relationship, show respect for the other one, and agree to the terms of that relationship, then I'm fine with it. Today, marriage is a different type of contract, heavily skewed to favor women. Any contract that can be terminated by either party at any time, but only one party has to keep paying after it's terminated, is a scary contract. Business partnerships make sure that obligations are clear from both sides, and it's always written in such a way that the other partner can't just quit and make you keep paying them. Ask any business attorney if you should sign a partnership where they bring in nothing, and you owe them a severance and indefinite pay if they quit for any reason. What do you think that attorney would say? And so, men are deciding that they are tired of getting the short end of the deal. 50% divorce rate, the woman always gets the kids, huge divorce settlements, and a man always pays and pays. Women wanted their independence, they got it. An occasional roll in the hay just isn't worth the price a man pays. I think feminism, like all other ideologies, is far from perfect. It should be criticized and challenged as much as any other idea should be. I think that the more certain feminists try to shut down any form of dissent, the more flaws their ideology will have. I feel like in the West, gender equality has reached a point where men's issues should be involved in the movement, and it is a great disappointment to me that so many privileged Western feminists still insist that men's rights have no place within feminism. I can understand better if we are discussing feminism in the context of heavily chauvinist societies where women have few legal rights and are heavily oppressed. I can see why feminists in these countries would want to focus on protecting women before even considering issues affecting men in those areas. But if we are talking about the US, the UK, Australia, and many other first world nations, that argument does not hold true for me. Additionally, we can look at a country like India, where women are heavily oppressed. Feminists there have largely focused on trying to help women. However, the result of that has been biased legislation towards both genders that has left almost no one happy. When legislation is made with only the consideration of one gender in mind, it tends to lead to unexpected consequences. Now both men and women in India come to me with legitimate grievances about the legal system in India, with many laws in place that are either a terrible injustice against women or a misguided overreaction to try to correct the issue. I understand and acknowledge that some feminists do believe that men's rights have a place, but unfortunately, this is still a hotly contested subject. I have met feminists who either strongly believe men's rights have a place within the feminist movement and those who think it has absolutely no role whatsoever. Some even go so far as to consider it to be a form of whataboutism or an attempt to derail the feminist movement to talk about men. I personally do not feel the need to try to embed myself in a movement only to fight an uphill battle against other feminists to try to convince them that men's issues deserve a role in the movement. Why would I do something so counterintuitive when I could simply start from a place where men's rights are not even controversial? I do not want to engage in the victim drama in which we go back and forth on issues trying to convince the other side that either men or women have it worse. All I want is to acknowledge that both genders deserve to have resources and support for issues like domestic violence. And for whatever reason, whenever I often try to educate people and bring up the glaring lack of resources for male victims, too many feminists seem intent on responding with aggressive attempts to fight over statistics and studies and rates of injury rather than just going, "Yeah, you're right. Male victims should have support." So, while I do acknowledge there are some feminists who do not believe these things, I also know there are some who do. And I don't feel any desire to try and fight with them over the direction the feminist movement should go. The way I see it, feminism is their movement, and they can do whatever they want with it. I can solve these issues whether I call myself a feminist, an egalitarian, or a purple unicorn. If you're going to make it hard for me, then don't turn around and act shocked when I just choose to save myself the hassle and not identify with your movement. It's already an uphill battle to get these issues taken seriously at the legal level, so why would I also take on the extra burden of fighting with my own allies over the problem too? But none of that matters to some feminists. Since I don't use the labels that they want me to use, I am the enemy and subject to derision and opposition, no matter how closely or not our goals are aligned. This is the last person who wants me in their movement. These are the type of people I have given up trying to convince to work with me on important goals. And for the record, I do not need a man's permission to do anything. I am strong and empowered, and have done nothing but fight for women to have the same rights as I have. I think the feminist movement has made mountains out of molehills on some issues while ignoring glaring injustices affecting men. They have come up with so many conflicting groups that there is no longer any consistency. You can believe just about anything, from outright misandry to wanting help for male victims, and still be considered a feminist. That makes no sense to me. If I can just believe whatever I want and still be considered a feminist, what is the point? There's even Christian feminism, which seeks to impose traditionalist views of female empowerment. Seriously. And perhaps laughably, if you believe these things and call yourself a feminist, you get almost no backlash. But if you don't call yourself a feminist, that's when it's considered to have been stepping out of line. You can believe almost exactly what feminists do and get 10 times more backlash than if you really pulled onto gender roles, but call yourself something like a Christian feminist in order to do so. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. And let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.